Hmm. Srila Gurudev ki jai, Srimad Mahaprabhu ki jai, Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai, Grantaraj Srimad-Bhagavatam ki jai, Shri Bhramara-gita ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Gaur Premanand Hari Hari Bo. So, I pranam to all of you. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you may be. And as you may know it, today we are starting a new series of lectures in the context of Bhramara Gītā will be the song of the Bumblebee. Today we will begin this unique section of the Srimad-Bhagavatam, which is found in the 10th Canto, 47th chapter, which includes 10 verses from this section, verse 12 to 21. So we will be speaking for quite a while about this. This is a very mysterious and important section of the whole Bhagavatam. Well, I have been giving in Spanish a series of lectures about different songs of the Bhagavat presented by the gopis in the 10th canto, like Venu Gita, Pranaya Gita, Gopi Gita. We have shared Gopi Gita in English, not the rest of them, let's see in time. But I want to share this Bhramara Gita. I'm also giving this series in Spanish. I have started some days ago, so I'm giving the same series both in Spanish and English simultaneously. So today we are beginning with this series. Will take, as I mentioned, some months, I think. And we will begin for sure by giving an introduction to the whole series. And this introduction will last for a few lectures as well. So we can really build up to the moment, specific moment where the Bhramara Gītā is there. And eventually, I'm sure we will also have to share some considerable lectures as a conclusion, an afterthought of this unique section of the Bhagavad, the song of the Bumblebee. So today in our first meeting, we will have our first introductory lecture. I think we may spend 4 or 5 introductory lectures before entering officially into the Bhramara Gītā to build context. And today we will be studying chapters. We will make a brief recap of the previous chapters to the Bhramara Gītā, which come after the previous song of the gopis in the 10th canto. So today we will be studying chapter 41 to 44 of the 10th chapter. But before that, for all this, I'll make some brief introduction to the other songs in connection to, so we can really keep in mind the flow of how these different songs of the gopis are being expressed in the Bhagavad. But before even starting with that, as usual, let's begin. Apart from the Mangala Charan we already have invoked, starting this new study, invoking the blessings of the Istadev, of our Gaudiya Sampradaya, Srimad Mahaprabhu, who himself, as being Krishna, tasting Radha Bhav, he went through, he tasted all these different songs that are presented in the Bhagavad by the gopis, all which at the same time represent different stages of separation exhibited in each of these songs, of these Gopi Gitas, if you will, songs of the gopis. So as you know, Mahaprabhu, Sri Chaitanya Devi's Krishna himself, Shyam Sundar, trying to access the inner world of experience of Śrīmatī Rādhārāṇī, and mainly through the low tide of separation that she feels for him. That's the main attribute of Sri Gaur Sundar. She's Krishna, and Radha Bhav is mainly experiencing separation, Radha experiencing separation from Krishna, and through that separation getting to the high tide of union. So through this particular mode that Mahaprabhu tasted all these different Gitas, 6 main Gitas from the 10th canto sung by the gopis, all of which again present love and separation, one after the other. In the mood of Radha, Mahaprabhu did that, establishing also an example for the sadhakas, who really gradually hanker to access the service of such an experience in one way or another, which is the zenith and the ultimate reach of our Gaudiya Sampradaya. So in this way, we pray for the grace of Srimad Mahaprabhu, so we may be blessed in our presentation, and the sharing and the hearing and the ruminating and processing of such sacred content. And also in that connection, we could say that for Mahaprabhu, as we know, the Bhagavad was his heart. He embraced the Bhagavatam in such a way that that gave as a result the whole Sampradaya, we call the Gaudiya Sampradaya. And he empowered his followers, especially 6 Goswamis, to disseminate his heart and his experience in the form of books composed by them, all of them mainly based on the Bhagavad. And interestingly, we could also mention, beyond the well-known writings of the Goswamis like Rupa, Sanat, and Jiva on the basis of the Bhagavad, also we could say the gift that Mahaprabhu gave to the less known of the Goswamis, who was Raghunath Bhatta Goswami. Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, who is the less known of the Goswamis, he did not receive a gift like the ones Mahaprabhu gave, for example, to Gopal Bhatta. To Gopal Bhatta, Mahaprabhu gave his own asana, appointing him as the Diksha Guru among the Goswamis. To Raghunath Das Goswami, Mahaprabhu gave his own Govardhan Sila with Gunjamala, indicating the service of Sri Radha. But to Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, Mahaprabhu gave what? He gave the Bhagavad. He gave the Grantha Avatar. He gave himself, Mahaprabhu being Krishna himself, in the form of Grantha, in the form of sacred scripture, sacred sound. So as we spoke in the Vaishnava etiquette series, in the same way, that Srimurti is not different from Bhagavan, Srinam is not different from Srinami. Similarly, Bhagavat is not different from Bhagavan. It's called Grantha Avatar. So this descent in the form of sacred scripture. So Mahaprabhu gave the Bhagavat to Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, who became well known among the Goswamis for reciting the Bhagavat in different sweet tunes and with lots of realization. So that's not to be underestimated. So similarly, by the grace of Sriman Mahaprabhu, we are conducting this session, and he, along with Nityananda Prabhu, as Chaitanya Bhagavat points, he and they give us as a gift the 2 Bhagavatas, the Grantha Bhagavat, the Grantha Avatar, Srimad-Bhagavatam, but which can only be understood through the Bhakta Bhagavata, the devotee Bhagavata, the Paramahamsa, the Mahajan. So we are conducting this series again with the blessing not only of Mahaprabhu, not only of Gaur Nityananda, but Grantha Bhagavat, Srimad-Bhagavat Mahapuran, but also with the blessing of Sri Guru and Vaishnavas. In which way? Well, trying to honor in a proper way the different commentaries that our Purvacharyas have presented to this Grantharaj, and understanding that that's the main way to enter into this domain, into the world of the Bhagavad, into the particular portal that the Bhagavad is pointing to us, Gaudiya Vaishnavas. Tatra laulam api kalamolyam, say Rupa Goswami. Only through divine sacred greed you will be able, that's a price to pay, that's a currency to access the world of emotions and service that the Bhagavad is pointing to us. So laulyam, this greed. So how this greed comes in the context of Ragamarg? Mainly by hearing Harikatha, which in one way it will be Bhagavad Katha, and which in one way will be Braja-katha, which the essence of the Bhagavatam is the 10th canto, and the essence of the 10th canto are those chapters dealing with Braja-lila. So to hear Braja-katha from the lotus lips of Rasik Vaishnavas, Rasik Bhaktas, that's one of the most powerful ways of creating Bhakti Samskar for us to develop this sacred greed. Of course, I'm not that Rasik Vaishnava, but I will try to share the presentation in the context of what our Purvacharyas, the Rasik Bhaktas, Srila Gurudev, and many other sadhus have said in the context of this Bhramara-gita, in the context of the different songs of the Bhagavad. So after this brief extra invocation of blessings, let me share with you a brief recap of the 5 previous Gitas, because Bhramara-gita is the 6th, the last one of these 6 Gitas that I chosen in my Spanish series to share, and maybe in English in time we may share the rest of them. So there are 5, and apart from the Bhramara-gita, 5 Gita songs sung by the gopis in the context of the 10th canto, all of which illustrate a particular type of viraha or vipralamba, separation in the context of divine law. And again, to witness this, to hear about this is crucial, not only for sadhakas, but especially according to what Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur mentions in Bhagavatam Chandrika, for those sadhakas, or we could say premikas, who attain prem, who attain divine love, and who are being born in the Prakat-lila, whatever the Krishna-lila is going on earth, so they can continue refining their prem in the association of Nitya Parisats, eternal associates of Bhagavan, especially be witnessing the different moods that they are going through in separation from Krishna on the Prakat-lila. All this will be unfolding in the chronological development of the Prakat-lila. That, as we know, the difference with the Aprakat-lila is in the Prakat-lila there's chronological unfolding, if you will. So here in this context, those sadhakas will witness the type of separation and will become embedded with that and further refine their prem in order to access the Aprakat-lila. So these 5 Gitas are crucial for them, but also are crucial for us as sadhakas who have not attained prem, but who want to tread that path. So very briefly, I will mention these first 5 songs before entering with the next section today. So the first of these 5 is the Bhramara-gita. The Bhramara-gita means the song of the flute. This appears in the 21st chapter of the 10th canto. And this is sung by the gopis in Purvarag. There are 4 types of separation in the context of Madhurya Rasa: Purvarag, Man, Pravas, and Prem Vaicitya. So we will see how these 4 play themselves out along these 6 main songs of the gopis in the 10th canto. Purvarag means that type of separation that you feel before officially acknowledging your love to the person you love, before first official meeting between lover and beloved. You hear about the person, you have seen the person, but it has not been yet acknowledged through a first official meeting. So Bhramara-gita has to do with that, with this type of longing, when you are having this intense desire for getting closer to the beloved. So the Bhramara-gita means the gopis are hearing the flute of Krishna in the distance, and they see how all the different species in Vrindavan react to the flute, and they feel themselves so unfortunate that they do not have the chance of getting closer to Krishna as they will like, basically. So here we have certain level of course, of rasa in the expression of the Bhramara-gita. It's a very beautiful song, but still it has not been a first meeting with Krishna and the subsequent separation. So there's not that much rasa as we will find in the following songs. Anyhow, it's an incredible, totally transcendental song. With this, I'm not downgrading the Bhramara-gita, but it's important also to understand how each one of these songs is presented in progressively higher and newer expression of prem, because eventually that's the nature of love, basically always growing in itself. So Bhramara-gita, brief words about that. The Pranaya-gita is the second one. Pranaya means love, basically. So the song of love. This comes in chapter 29 of the Bhagavatam, some verses, not the whole chapter. So this chapter is the first one of 5 chapters concerning Rasa Lila, called the Rasa Panchadhyay, these 5 chapters. So this is sung with the Braja Gopikas when they meet Krishna. When Krishna plays the flute, inspired by the autumn season, full moon, romantic feelings arise in the heart, and he plays the flute, calling the gopis. So gopis go running, leave everything, whatever they were doing. Remember, these gopis were the Bhramara-gita in Purvarag, they want to meet Krishna, so Krishna is calling them now. They go, and Krishna apparently, at least on some level of breathing, tells them to go back to their homes. So the gopis present some reasons why to stay there and not return. So that's the Pranaya-gita, basically. Here, the Rasa Lila has not started yet, because it is said that Sri Radha didn't come yet on a scene, because she fainted when she heard the sound of the flute, so she was not able to run after the flute. So the gopis are with Krishna, and they're anticipating the possibility of imminent separation from him, because he's telling them on some level, you can go back home. So that's one form of Prem Vaicitya. Prem Vaicitya means separation in union. There are different forms of it, and we will see Bhramara-gita represents another, not Bhramara-gita, sorry. We will see a pastime close to Bhramara-gita, which represents another form of Prem Vaicitya. Prem Vaicitya means I'm with my beloved, but I fear imminent separation by any reason. So here we have that in the Pranaya-gita, Prem Vaicitya in this particular form. And again, in this Pranaya-gita, there is a higher degree of rasa in comparison to the Bhramara-gita, because the relation has been consummated a little bit more, at least, The gopis have been there, Krishna called them, they are seeing them, but still there's not that much rasas in the future songs, if you will, next songs, because Radha is not yet present, as she will be in the next song, which is the Gopi-gita. So in the Gopi-gita, which is whole chapter 31 of the 10th canto, still we are in the 5 chapters dealing with Rasa Lila, as you know, eventually, as you know, Radha appears on a scene, Rasa Lila begins, Krishna dances with the gopis, eventually Krishna disappears from the Rasa mandal, and the gopis start to look for him, and they see some footprints from Krishna, and then from another gopi, they realize Radha is that gopi, they find Radha eventually, and Krishna left her for certain reasons, and eventually those gopis empathize with Radha and join her, and all of them together sing Gopi-gita, the song of the gopis will mean, which means in separation from Krishna. So this Gopi-gita is higher than the previous ones, because the separation that the gopis are experiencing here is after they have joined Krishna in Rasa Lila. But Krishna disappeared with certain intention in mind. So this type of separation is called pravas. Pravas means separation that comes because of distance, physical distance, circumstance. And there's intentional pravas and unintentional pravas. So here's intentional. Krishna disappeared with some intention in mind. We already spoke about that in our Gopi-gita series in English, I think last year or 2 years back. So the point is that there's a higher expression of rasa here, because Krishna joins with the gopis, Radha is present. So it's more intense than the separation in Purva Rag from the Venu-gita, more intense than the Pranaya-gita, because here not only they met Krishna, but also Radha is present, and Radha's supreme position is acknowledged at one point of the Gopi-gita by the other gopis, which has not happened in the previous gitas. So in this way, when Krishna came back to the Rasa Lila after this Gopi-gita, a higher expression of rasa and of beauty manifested there. So that's the third one, Gopi-gita. Just to recapitulate and put everything in context. Then we have the Yugal-gita, which comes in the chapter 35 of the 10th canto. This is the 4th song, Yugal-gita. Yugal means pairs, because this song will be presented in pairs of verses. So Yugal-gita will appear in a different context of separation, because here Krishna already was meeting with the gopis every single night for Rasa Lila. They were having Rasa Lila every night. So at this point of their lives, the emotion of the gopis divided in two, we could say. On one side, intense sambhoga, intense union at night in Rasa Lila, but intense corresponding vipralamba or separation during the day. So this gave rise to an intense desire in the gopis to meet Krishna also during the day. It's not that, okay, now we are meeting every single night, we are satisfied. No, now we want to meet him in the day as well. So they will present this Yugal-gita in that context. During the day, hearing Krishna's flute in the back, similar to Venu-gita in that sense, but with another experience, having had another experience, having had another longing now. So here we have a higher rasa even than the previous songs, because here the gopis are experiencing a higher degree of union with Krishna, because they are having Rasa Lila every night, and therefore they are experiencing a higher degree of separation during the day. So this is, again, another form of separation is prabhas, the same one as Gopi-gita, but unintentional prabhas. In this case, Krishna is not intentionally disappearing from the gopis, but he has to go on a daily basis. He goes to the forest with the cows, his friends, so it's unintentional. By force of circumstance, they are separated on the day by distance. So this Yugal-gita, and interesting in this connection, the gopis want this union during the day. It's not happening till this point of the chronological unfolding of the Lila on earth. But after the Yugal-gita comes the killing of Aristasura, the bull demon. So what does it mean? Killing of Aristasura gives place to the appearance of Radha-kun and the appearance of Shyamakun. And that gives place to the daily meetings and the midday pastimes between Radha and Krishna and the gopis. So at this point of the Lila, with the appearance of Radha-kun, it is to say that the Prakat Lila, the Lila on earth, reaches the same position of unfolding, if you will, or development, like what we find in the Aprakat Lila, in the Nitya Lila of Golok. That's called Nitya Sthiti, means like permanent position, So at that point of the Prakat Lila, we should stop there, if you will. My Guru Maharaj would used to say that. When that happens, you stop there, and that there the Prakat Lila resembles the most as what's going on a daily basis in the Aprakat Lila. So if we say, okay, we should stop there, one may wonder, so what else, what other form of separation is possible after such a thing? So yeah, there are some other forms of separation in the Prakat Lila. And then we come to the fifth song, which is the Bhramara-gita. Viraha means separation. So this will appear in chapter 39. So this is the previous song to the Bhramara-gita we'll be studying in this series. So the Bhramara-gita, chapter 39, is the first of two songs along with the Bhramara-gita, in which Krishna, differently from the Aprakat Lila, is leaving Braj, leaving, quote unquote, as we will see. Krishna never puts a step outside of Braj, but somehow or other he leaves to Mathura, eventually to Dwarka, and so on. So with this leaving, he's creating another type of separation that does not exist in Golok Vrindavan, basically. And in one sense, all the other types of separation that we have seen are also not present in Golok, at least not in that type. There is not that type of Purvarag, because there is not a chronological unfolding, basically, of the Lila. That's the point. There is Nitya Sthiti there. But as we mentioned, all this is exhibited in Gokul on earth, between other reasons, for the benefit of the premikas who are born on the Bhoma Lila and require to refine their prem, being witness of the separation of the Nitya Parishads. So in this Bhramara-gita, we will find one form of prem by Chitya. Prem by Chitya, we mentioned, is separation in union. You are with your lover, but you anticipate the imminent separation. So how does this happen? In this particular song, as you may know, Akrura is sent to Braj by Kamsa Maharaj, to take Krishna and Balaram to Mathura, because he invites them to a sacrifice of a bow, as we will see today, and some fighting contest. That's the excuse. He wants to kill them, basically, as we know the story. So the point is, Akrura comes in the chariot and it's taking them on the chariot. I'm, of course, making a recap of that, only a brief summary. So nobody in Vrindavan basically is putting big obstacles to Krishna leaving Braj. So the gopis, by witnessing that and experiencing this imminent separation, start to sing this Bhramara-gita. They start to basically abuse, in words, Providence itself, Akrur, what to speak of Akrur, the ladies of Mathura, Krishna himself, the Brajavasis, in different terms, in different verses, in the high waves of their ecstasy, and absorbed in remembering different leelas with him, and culminating their song, the Bhramara-gita, in Nam Kirtan, invoking the names of Krishna with the famous line, Govinda Damodara Madhaveti. Govinda Damodara Madhaveti. There we find in the Bhagavatam this famous line, invoking the names of Bhagavan. So eventually Krishna leaves with Balaram and Akrura in the chariot, and Krishna on the way to Mathura is sending different messages through messengers, through the gopis, affirming his love for them, promising, I will be back very soon after killing Kamsa. So after this leaving, quote unquote, from Braj, it is said that the gopis immerse themselves into an ocean of separation, absorbed in remembering the leelas of Hari. And Akrura, who is the uncle of Krishna, just on the borderline between Braj and Mathura, it is said that he goes to the river Jamuna to recite some mantras, and he suddenly has the darshan of Krishna and Balaram there in the Jamuna as Vishnu and Ananta, Mahavishnu and Ananta Sankarshan. Which this the point is, from Vrindavan outside, Krishna and Balaram, I'm not leaving that. They return there. They never leave Vrindavan. So what's going out of Vrindavan is an expansion of them. Vasudev, Krishna, Sankarshan in the context of Baladev, the original forms remain always in Braj. So after such darshan, chapter 40 of the Bhagavad Gita, which is the next chapter of the Bhramara-gita, of the Bhagavatam, which comes after this Bhramara-gita, are the prayers of Akrura, famous section where Akrura is praying in front of such darshan. He becomes known as the Acharya of Bandhanam because of that. So, and after that, we will have the Bhramara-gita. But again, I will share in these next classes what happens after this Viraha Gita, after Krishna leaves Braj, till the point of Bhramara Gita. Some things will happen there. We have almost like 7 chapters of the Bhagavatam there, of this 10th canto. But let me give you a brief summary, trailer like of the Bhramara Gita, for you to have a taste of that, and then we will make some brief recap of the in-between chapters. So after these first 5 songs, we have the 6th one, which is the Bhramara Gita, the song of the Bumblebee, which is, I will clarify, different story from other typical pastime that we hear in connection to Sri Radha and the Bumblebee, which is, for example, narrated in the Vidagdha Madhav of Srila Rupa Goswami in the act number 5. I will briefly tell that pastime for you to understand the difference between the two. So in this Vidagdha Madhava section, the Sylvan goddess, Vrinda Devi, she's understanding the loving desires of Sri Radha Krishna, so she starts to create the proper environment for that in the forest. So she starts to awaken different flowers and vines in Braj, calling them by name. Oh Madhavi, smile softly. Oh Malike, jasmine flower, show your smile. Oh roses, bloom up beautifully. Oh golden Jutica flowers, give up your drowsiness, wake up. And in this way, lotus flowers, be happy, appear, close by, show your beauty. You should all create the desire in Radha and Hari and Krishna to sport in the forest, basically. She's instructing the forest to appear in a particular way. And then Vrinda Devi appears in a scene, Radha and Krishna there. Vrinda Devi brings 2 white clay lotuses that sometimes they have in their hands, and 2 red ear decorating lotuses to be put in the ear. So Krishna decorates Radhika's ears with these red lotuses. And then suddenly a bumblebee that was hiding in one of Krishna's white clay lotuses starts to fly up from the white lotus to Radhika's face, being attracted to her sweet fragrance, to her lotus-like face, and to the fragrance of the red lotus flowers that decorated her ears. So the point is that this bumblebee makes Radha fearfully flap her arms, vine-like arms around and embrace Krishna. On many occasions this happened, seeking his shelter. So at that point, Madhu Mangal, who is Vidusaka, Priyanaramasaka, who was close to the situation, chases the bee away, who was appearing in between Radha and Krishna. So he says to Radha, oh Radhe, Madhusudan, which means the bumblebee, is gone. So you won't see him anymore. But the point is that Madhusudan also means it's the name of Krishna. So Sri Radha heard Madhusudan and she thought related immediately everything with Krishna. So she thought, oh, Madhu Mangal is speaking about Krishna. I won't see him anymore. So she became immediately very upset and entered into a zoom of ecstasy in separation in Prem by Chitya. It's another form of Prem by Chitya here. Union in separation. There is no imminent separation. She feels I'm separated while Krishna is just in front of her. So at that point, Sri Radha starts to lament, saying, oh, alas, have maybe the cows called out for his help, for Krishna's help being caught in a forest fire, or maybe he has found some fault in me. She starts to lament in humility, dainyam. Maybe he was taken elsewhere by another gopi. Otherwise, why Krishna suddenly left me? So this is Prem by Chitya. And Krishna is totally astonished having darshan of Sri Radha's Prem by Chitya. So all the devotees around her, Gopas, Priyanarmasakas, Gopis, Krishna forbids them, secretly forbids to break her illusion, so that he may witness, have darshan of her wonderful expressions of Prem for him. So Sri Radha continues lamenting, oh, Krishna could not decorate my hair with Madhavi flowers, for example, or I could not string a garland of champak flowers to kiss his chest, or beat him with jasmine flowers for fun, whatever. Today, at the beginning of our Sylvan forest pastimes, some forest fire broke out and I lost sight of him, and Krishna was there again. So this is another form of Prem by Chitya in the context of a pastime with a V, bumblebee. But this is not the Bhramara Gita. Just I want to clarify that. So the Bhramara Gita, which will mainly imply pravas, again, we will go to that type of separation, not Prem by Chitya, but pravas, which was longer intentional pravas, which is circumstantial physical distance like separation. And there will be some man, which is the 4th type of separation. Man means jealous love. That Radha will express that in this Bhramara Gītā, which again are 10 verses, which Sri Radha will speak in the zenith of Divyan Mad or divine madness, speaking to a bumblebee that she will take as a messenger from Krishna. And to say the brief context of that is one, after going to Mathura, Krishna sent Uddhava to Vrindavan as a messenger with a message for the Brajavasis and the Gopis in particular. And when the Braja Gopis saw Uddhava, he resembled Krishna so much, he wore his remnant clothes. So they curiously approached him and circled him. So they realized Krishna has sent him with a message. So they brought him to a secluded place and start to speak confidentially with him, absorbed in Krishna's pastime, putting aside all their shyness and loudly weeping in separation. And then at one point it is mentioned in the Bhagavatam, as we will see. Sorry. Then one gopi, which we'll see is Radha, she noticed the bumblebee, bumblebee, and she considered it to be a messenger of Krishna. So he spoke to it, blaming Krishna, abusing him in many ways, mostly. So Sri Radha expressed her supreme love for Krishna in these 10 verses, which in each of these verses, we will see there are 10 types of called Chitra Jalpa, which means mad talk, impulsive speech, different varieties of Chitra Jalpa, Parijalpa, Bijalpa, Ujalpa, Prajalpa. So this Bhramara Gītā sometimes is called Chitra Jalpa Bachan. Bachan means like speech, speech in the context of divine discourse, madness, divine madness discourse. So there she will say, in the same way like bees are wandering from flower to flower, Krishna has abandoned the lotus like gopis and developed affection for other flowers, for other people, for other ladies in Mathura. And she started to contrast her different moods. He contrasted her own supposed ill fortune with the good fortune of others who got the association of Krishna. And at the same time, she was criticizing Krishna. She was glorifying Krishna's names, forms, Lila, Guna, Rupa. And eventually she declared, although Krishna may have abandoned us, we cannot possibly stop remembering him even for a moment. So Uddhava, you can imagine, he was totally overwhelmed, astonished by witnessing such a degree of love. He thought he was sending a message to them, but he realized there's a message for me here. So he was witnessing basically the highest degree of pure love from the gopis, and he tried to console them. They were anxious to see Krishna again, so he related to them Krishna's message, and eventually they sent some message back to Krishna. We'll see all this in this series, basically. But before starting officially with the Bhramara Gītā more in detail, I consider to give a not so brief introduction to the Bhramara Gītā, so we can really grasp how this separation is developing both on the side of the Brajavasis and on the side of Krishna as well, being in Mathura, and all the different circumstances that take to this converging point, zenith-like point of the Bhramara Gītā, which is this last song of separation of the gopis in the 10th canto. So I will explain a little bit what happened between the last song, as I mentioned, the Viraha Gītā, and the Bhramara Gītā. So I will require, I think, this class and maybe 4 more. So bear with me, please. And I try, and I have confidence that I'm confident that will help to all of us to enter more properly into the mood of this song of the Bumblebee. So today we will start. We will see chapters as I mentioned. Viraha Gītā was chapter 39. The prayers of Akrura was chapter 40, when Krishna and Balaram showed themselves as Vishnu and Ananta. And then we will start now with chapter 41. Bhramara Gītā is in chapter 47. We have 7 chapters to go that we will be covering these first 5 lectures. But today we will cover chapters 41 to 44. Of course, this will be a brief summary, you can imagine. It's 4 chapters of the Bhagavatam, 10 cantos of the Bhagavatam. So till now, this has been a brief introduction to the different songs to put everything in context. Now we are more officially entering into the dynamics, getting closer and closer to the Bhramara Gītā. So let's begin with a summary of chapter 41, which is called Krishna and Balaram Enter Vrindavan. So again, after the prayers of Akrura, when he saw this full display of Aishwarya from Krishna and Balaram, showing themselves as Vishnu and Ananta, Akrura returns to the chariot. Krishna and Balaram were waiting in the chariot, but actually they manifested themselves as Vishnu and Ananta simultaneously in the Jamuna. So when Akrura returns, he saw Krishna and Balaram, they're looking at them, and Akrura was totally astonished, overwhelmed. So Krishna says, have you seen something wonderful there in the Jamuna? So of course Akrura replies to them, glorifying and again invoking another series of prayers and so on. So the journey continues, and eventually Akrura is driving the chariot towards Mathura. So there's the point in Mathura, and in the way from Vrindavan to Mathura, all different people, village people that were seeing Krishna and Balaram. Remember, many of these people never went to Vrindavan, never saw Krishna, but all the news about Krishna-lila for so many years were spreading in this direction. After 11 years and a little bit more that Krishna stayed in Praj, the Prakat Lila. So all of them were getting closer to the chariot to have darshan of Krishna and Balaram, glorify them and so on. So eventually at the end of the day, they reach Mathura, the big city, the village boys entering the big city. It is said that simultaneously, along with Krishna and Balaram, Nanda Maharaj and the Gopas, Krishna's friends, also went to Mathura to be part of this event, big event. And Nanda Maharaj, as we know, he promised to Yashoda, I will take him back. So that's why Yashoda allowed Nanda Maharaj to take to Krishna to go out Braj. So Nanda was going with the Gopas, and they went on a different chariot, different carts, bullock carts, and so on. So they arrived to Mathura first, then Krishna Balaram, because again, Akrura was a little bit delayed with this darshan he had in the Jamuna and so on. So Nanda and the Gopas wait for Krishna Balaram at one particular point. And when they arrived to Mathura, Krishna immediately, and putting his feet on Mathura, he starts to feel the separation from Braj. His heart is full of pain by remembering Braj. And we will see, try to bear this in mind all along our narration till the very end. How all these leelas outside of Braj actually are pointing to Braj over and over again. The Bhagavatam is speaking directly about Braj or indirectly about Braj. So the Mathura Leelas, the Dwarka Leelas are indirectly glorifying Braj by showing, by comparison, by way of contrast, the degree of love that is not found in Mathura and Dwarka, that is found in Braj. So it's important that we bear that in mind, because that's our main focus. So Krishna arrives to Mathura. His heart is full of separation by remembering Braj. So at the end of the day, he asks Akrura, you can go back home. You go to your house. And me with Balaram and my friends, they got to meet the Gopas. We will visit the city a little bit. We are village boys. We came to the big city for the first time. We want to see a little bit the surroundings. So Akrura goes back. He goes to Kamsa, also informing that he brought Krishna and Balaram as he asked him. So after that, he goes to his house. And then a detailed description of the opulence of the city of Mathura is there in the Bhagavad, the beauty of the city. Again, Mathura is an eternal realm as well. It's one of the three divisions of Golok, Golok Vrindavan, Golok Mathura, Golok Dwarka. And after this, the Bhagavatam describes the beauty of the ladies of Mathura, who again were hearing about Krishna for so much time, never saw him. Now they had the chance of the first darshan. So they were contemplating Krishna and Balaram from their rooftops of their houses in ecstasy, leaving everything they were doing, like half makeup, whatever they were cooking. They just left everything to see Krishna, which sounds similar to how the gopis reacted towards this call of Krishna's flute. But as we know, it's similar but never the same. And as we will see, there's no point of comparison. So again, they have heard about him. Now they're seeing him there, and Krishna is captivating them with their sidelong glances, as we know. He's a romantic fellow, somehow or other, even in Mathura, of course, not the same romanticism we will find in Braj. So they are singing his glories. The different Brahmanas in Mathura, they are offering their pranam to Krishna. And this way, Krishna is entering Mathura for the first time. After this, the Bhagavad describes a washerman who appears on the scene, who was a servant of Kamsa. So Krishna asks him, please, can you give me, he was washing the king's clothes. So Krishna asks him, he's with Balaram and his friend, give us, me and Baladev, your best clothes so we can wear them. But this washerman, he replies with arrogance and calling, you are just cowherd boys. How you can even think of trying to wear the king's clothes? better you stop saying that. And he started to threaten them. Because if not, better you leave this place now because you will be chastised. Of course, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in his commentary invokes Saraswati Devi, the goddess of speech, who couldn't tolerate that some insult was given to Krishna. So she gave a total different meaning to the verse, which actually resulted in a glorification to Hari. But on some level, the washerman was criticizing Krishna. So Krishna decided that with his fingertips, he beheaded the washerman. So a new Lila began in Mathura, as you can see. And Krishna and Balaram take the clothes they wanted and they start to wear themselves. Krishna and Balaram with those clothes and distribute all of them amongst their friends, and they start to play as being kings, which is one of the main aspects of Sakhya Rasa. The boys will play among themselves to be kings and princes and different roles in the kingdom. So they were doing that in Mathura, wearing the very clothes of Kamsa Maharaj. So all this is creating the momentum to what will happen eventually. So after meeting the washerman, Krishna, Balaram and the friends meet a weaver. In this case, a very affectionate one. So he saw Krishna and Balaram very lovingly. He went nearby them and started to ornament them, putting different decorations made of cloth that he had made on Krishna and Balaram, decorating them. And Krishna, very pleased with him, promises to this weaver Sarupya in the form, you will receive the form of a Gopa at the end of your life. And all the enjoyment in this life. In his Gopal shampoo, that we will also be quoting it a lot, which is, I will say, the masterpiece of Srila Jiva Goswami. Of course, Satsandarbhas are another masterpiece. But regarding Bhava, Gopal shampoo is narrating the 10th canto in a very unique way. So in the Gopal shampoo, Jiva Goswami said that this weaver received Sarupya in the form of the Gopa right in the moment. He didn't have to wait till the end of his life. So whatever be the case, he was blessed. So then after this, it is said that Krishna and Balaram went to the house of the garland maker, Sudama. This is not the same Sudama that is Sudama Vipra, the Brahmin Sudama, with whom Krishna studied the Gurukula, as we will see. And he met eventually later when he was in Dwarka. And he's not the Sudama who is a Gopa in Vrindavan. There are many Sudamas. This is a garland maker in Mathura. So here the garland comes. Now first, there is an order here. First, Krishna was dressed, then he received the ornaments, and then comes the garland. As we are worshiping Śrīmūrti, first we have Vastram, then we have Avaranam, then we have Mala. First the dressing, then comes the ornamentation, and then comes the garland. So Krishna here is showing the same sequence. So Sudama, the garland maker, received them in his house. He worshipped them very affectionately, praying different many verses, very beautiful verses. Sorry that I'm not sharing them here. And he offered garlands, of course, to them. He was a garland maker. So in reply to that, Krishna and Balaram offer any benediction that Sudama may like. So Sudama prayed for something very typical. He said, I pray for firm devotion towards Bhagavan first, friendship with the devotees, and compassion for all jivas. So Krishna and Balaram gave them on all prosperity in this life. So this is a classical prayer, to know how to relate with every person. For Bhagavan, I want to have devotional love. With the devotees, I will have devotional friendship. And with other jivas, non-devotees jivas, I want to be compassionate. So we should also pray in that way, similarly. So then, that's the end of the chapter 41, which is Krishna and Balaram arrived to enter Vrindavan. I say it's enter Mathura, sorry, I mentioned before, enter Mathura. So then we have chapter 42. Give me one second. So this is called the breaking of the sacrificial bow. So we are getting closer and closer to further action here. So remember, there was a big sacrificial bow in Mathura. Kamsa organized some event around that, along with some wrestling match. So after this, chapter 42 starts by describing the meeting of Krishna with Kubja. So Kubja is a hunchback lady. So she was producing and taking with her at that moment some fragrant ointments for Kamsa. She worked in that context. So Krishna asked from her, who are you? And for whom those ornaments, or not ornaments, sorry, ornaments, that's made for whom? So he said, this is for Kamsa, is for the king. So Krishna asked, give me the best of those. And she gives, she agrees, and she offers a blessing to her. If you give me them, I will bless you. So she agrees with that. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments in the Bhagavat that actually Kubja is a manifestation of Prithvi, of Mother Earth, who was hunchback, representing the earth, because of the heavy load of cheating government people, if you will, cheated politics. Kamsa was one of them, especially she was at the embassy of corruption, Mathura with Kamsa there. So she was hunchback because of that. So basically that's a context. And also as the element of aroma is characteristic of the earth, that was the earth was offering to Krishna here. That was Kubja, in the form of this lady preparing ointments offered to Krishna, some aroma. We know, now we have earth, water, fire, air, and ether. And each of them includes certain element. Ether has to do with sound, air has to do with sound and touch, fire has to do with sound, touch, and sight, water has to do with sound, touch, sight, and taste, and earth has to do with sound, touch, sight, taste, and smell, aroma. So that's a unique feature of the earth. So here, Mother Earth herself offering that distinctive element to Krishna in the form of Kubja. So Krishna accepts that, very pleased, and suddenly he makes Krishna Kubja straight. He straightens Kubja from his hunchback, and suddenly she becomes a very beautiful lady who starts to develop immediately at that point some wish to enjoy with Krishna. Not so much to give pleasure to Krishna as the gopis will do, but to herself experience some pleasure with Krishna. And that's why her madhurya, her romantic attraction toward Krishna, is termed Sadharani Rati. There are three types of Rati: Sadharani Rati, Samanjasa Rati, and Samartha Rati, defined by Rupa Goswami. So Sadharani Rati means more like ordinary love, because she was more concerned about experiencing herself something in connection to Krishna. While the gopis Samartha Rati means competent love, which is so selfless that it has the full power of controlling Krishna. And in between we have Samanjasa Rati, which means inhibited love, which is in between the two, and is mostly connected to the queens of Dwarka. So well, the point is that she won't start, Kubja, inviting Krishna to her home for this, but Krishna promises, I will go later. Now I have to mainly satisfy the main purpose of my coming here to Mathura. So Krishna continues walking and charming everyone on the path in Mathura, receiving different offerings of words and gifts from the Vaisyas there in Mathura, and the loving glances of the ladies in Mathura. It is said that in Gopal Champu, again, Jiva Goswami in this connection say that when the ladies of Mathura came to see Krishna, they get together closely at one level and what point to see Krishna. Krishna saw the faces of those ladies, but simultaneously, Jiva Goswami said he desired something from them. Because he was looking everywhere in Mathura for forms similar to the gopis. So again, over and over again, our acharyas are remaining in the proper context. He's in Mathura, but he's in Vrindavan. He's looking for Vrindavan in Mathura. He's not finding that. He's looking for the gopis in the ladies, city ladies of Mathura. He's not finding that, and so on, as we will see. So all this creates a proper, perimeter to enter into the real mood of what's going on here. So Krishna inquires at this point, where is the big arena where all this event, this vow sacrifice was conducted? So finally he arrives there and he sees this big bow, which was from Shiva, and it was protected and it was worshipped. But Krishna goes there and just takes the bow himself. Even though they tried to stop him, there were different guards there. So he starts to pull the bow more to the point of breaking the bow into half. So Kamsa was in his palace, but at the distance he heard the sound of the bow being totally broken half. So he became totally terrified. He was already terrified, furthermore. So the different guards of Kamsa tried to kill Krishna and Balaram, but Krishna and Balaram killed them with this half bows that each of them have with them. And after that, they continue walking in the city of Mathura. All this is just the first day of Krishna and Balaram in Mathura. Lots of events, as you can see. So at the end of the day, they returned to their campground where they were staying with the Gopas a little bit outside of the big city, and they took rest there. So you can imagine at this point how Kamsa Maharaj was going after knowing all that happened in that only very first day. He was not able to sleep at all that night. Or it is said that even when he was able to sleep for a few seconds, he started to have nightmares with different bad omens announcing his death. And when he was awake, he started to show those bad omens also, sleeping and awakening. In both states, he was receiving all these omens about his imminent death. So the next day, which it will be the second day of Krishna in Mathura, Kamsa organized all this for this great festival of wrestling, festival in the arena. This was the day for that. So all of Mathura was participating in this festival, in this event. And Kamsa was there in the big arena, seated in the big, real kingdom-like, king-like throne. But his heart was trembling, basically. Externally, he was sitting in a big throne, but his heart was like totally like a little child, afraid of what will happen next. And after this, the one who appears on the scene are Chanura and Mustika, who are some of the wrestlers from Kamsa's entourage. So they enter the arena, and also Nanda Maharaj and the Gopas enter into not the wrestling arena, but take their seats to watch the event, if you will. Krishna and Balaram did not arrive yet there. So that's the end of chapter 42. So let's continue with the next chapter, 43, which is called Krishna Kills the Elephant Kuvalayapit. So at this point, different drums are played to announce the beginning of the great event. So Krishna and Balaram, they were there at some distance, they hear the drums and say, okay, the event is starting, let's go there. Some action will be taking place, let's go. So they want to enter into the arena, but they find this big elephant, El Kuvalayapit, obstructing the entrance at the gate. So that generates a whole wrestling match in itself between Kuvalayapit and Krishna. And this is described in real detail in the Bhagavad, how they were wrestling and the different movements and so on. Well, eventually Krishna kills Kuvalayapit, to make a long story short, and he extracts one of its tasks, and kill the elephant with his own tasks. So, and entering into the arena with that task on his shoulder, and Balaram taking the other one. So that's the entrance of Krishna and Balaram into the wrestling arena after killing Kuvalayapit, along with the Gopas. Krishna and Balaram and all the Gopas joining him. And at this point comes a very famous verse that my Guru Maharaj also briefly mentioned yesterday, where it is mentioned how the different people at the wrestling arena watched Krishna, and according to the different mood, they were seeing Krishna in the context of each one of the different rasas, the 5 main rasas and the 7 secondary rasas. So that's a further confirmation that Rupa Goswami uses for the idea of Krishna being Akila Rasamrita Murti, the perfect form of rasa, which can receive all different emotional dispositions and reciprocate accordingly. So at this point comes this well-known verse. So you can imagine at this point how Kamsa's heart is, totally terrified, but the rest of the arena, the people there, is totally captivated, glorifying Krishna and Balaram, and they are remembering all the leelas they hear from them, about them from others in Braj. So in this section of the Bhagavatam, many of those leelas are mentioned: Krishna killing this demon, that demon, lifting Govardhan hill, doing this, doing that. They were not witnessing them themselves, but they heard about them and they wanted to meet the main character in those leelas. So now they were having the chance. So after this section, Chanura, one of these wrestlers that I mentioned before, appears on the scene and tells to Krishna and Balaram, you are very expert in wrestling, in arm-to-arm wrestling. So I invite you to wrestle with me. Chanura invites Krishna to wrestle with him, and Mustika invites Balaram to do so. So that's the end of chapter 43. So let's go to the last chapter from today, which is chapter 44, which is the killing of Kamsa. So finally we get to that point. But before that, of course, the chapter begins describing the wrestling between Chanura, Mustika, and Krishna and Balaram in detail with the different movements and how the whole audience was considering totally irreligious to allow that to happen, because these Chanura and Mustika were adult professional wrestlers, while Krishna and Balaram were two boys, at least on some level, apparently. And the king is there enjoying the match as he's not saying anything. He's the king, he should stop this, but the whole assembly has been pervaded by adharma. They are allowing this. So in that context, there are different ladies from Mathura who are saying that, and in that context, glorifying Krishna and Balaram and glorifying Braj. Again, over and over again, we see how very strategically Sukadev, the Bhagavat, is invoking the Braj, the glories of Braj, to put everything in context, especially the gopis. There are three famous verses that come here, which speak about how the gopis love Krishna. They are glorifying Krishna, but in the context of glorifying Krishna, they're speaking the love of the gopis, which make Krishna to be who he is in the context of that love. So let me briefly mention those verses. I may extend in this series a little bit more than usual, but please bear with me, not that much. So the first verse say, Gopyatapa kimmacharadhyada musharupam lavanya sharama samurdham nanya shidam drikbhi pibantyanu shababina bandurapam kantadham yasyasa sri aishwarasya. So the ladies of Mathura say, what austerities must the gopis have performed? Because with their eyes they have seen and they have drunk the beauty of Krishna, which is not to be compared with anyone else. It's not equal to anyone else. That's the essence of all loveliness, of all opulence, and that beauty is always increasing. So again, they are glorifying Krishna's beauty that they are seeing with their eyes, but in the concept of that, glorifying the gopis' love, who was able to drink that beauty on a daily basis, and actually, what created that beauty, because the love of the gopis expressed through their glances created particular Krishna. That's the first verse. The second one says, Jadohani bahanani matano palipa prinkin kanarbaru ditokshana marjanadu kayanti che namano raktadiyo shrukanti dhanyabra striyo rukrama chitta janaha. So in this second verse, the ladies of Mathura say, these gopis, while milking the cows, winnowing grain, taking care of those children, working at home, doing whatever they want, they are doing whatever they are doing, they are immersed in singing of Krishna's glories. Their whole consciousness is absorbed only in him. While externally they may be doing something else, they are only doing one single thing, Krishna Kirtan. And the last verse says, Pratad brajat brajato avishatascha sayam Gubishaman Kanayatoshya Nistamya Venam Nirgatiturnam Avalapati Bhuri Punyam Pashyanti Susmita Mukam Shadayavalokam. So the ladies of Mathura say, when Krishna every day was leaving to the forest with the cows and his friends, for the gopis, that separation during the day, even one moment of separation was like a yuga, like an age of more. And when he returned in the afternoon, they felt so much relief when Krishna was throwing them loving sidelong glances in a merciful way. So in this way, we see how very strategically the Bhagavatam is putting in context, Vrindavan is the all in all here. And the ladies of Mathura are glorifying that love, like implying we don't have that love. Here, there is another love. There is love, for sure. There's a type of prem, but different one. So going back to the wrestling, Krishna and Balarama wrestling with Chanura and Mustik. So by hearing all these words from the ladies of Mathura who were afflicted, oh, these boys are wrestling with these adults, Krishna say, I will kill Chanura immediately to calm these ladies, to relieve them. So in this way, Krishna kills Chanura, Balaram kills Mustika, and other wrestlers appear on the scene after that. Krishna and Balaram kill them all. And the remaining wrestlers just fly from the stage, disappear because of fear. So after killing all these wrestlers, Krishna and Balaram call the Sakhas, their Braja Gopas, and they appear on the scene, and all of them start to dance and play and celebrate the victory, because they're on a daily basis, they do the same, on wrestling match and celebrating the victory and so on. So everyone in the arena was glorifying Krishna, except Kamsa. And Kamsa is totally freaking out, and he gives the order, stop the music, because there was some music celebrating the victory. Stop all glorification, and he starts to give orders. I want Krishna and Balaram to be taken out of Mathura. I want all the properties of the gopis to be taken away. Nanda has to be arrested. Vasudeva has to be killed. Even my father, Ugrasen, has to be killed. So Kamsa was going mad. He wanted to kill everyone, full of fear. You know, when you are full of fear, you want to kill and attack everyone. So when Krishna heard Kamsa saying all these things, immediately he jumped into the place from the arena, wrestling arena, to the place where Kamsa was sitting there, the kingly, the royal place. And Kamsa prepared to fight with Krishna. Remember, Kamsa was the uncle of Krishna, basically. So Krishna took Kamsa from his hair and he threw him into the wrestling arena. And he killed him immediately at that point, basically. And he started to move his body along the arena, take him from the hair. His Gopal shampoo, Srila Jiva Goswami mentioned that Krishna, but just by taking him by the hair, like Kamsa by the hair, he released half his life hairs. And then by grabbing him on the wrestling arena, he pulled him from the days and released the other half of his life hairs. By taking Kamsa from the hair, it seems like Krishna was saying to him, do you remember when you took my mother from his hair, when Kamsa took Devaki, one of his mothers, from his hair? Okay, so now I'm doing that. But basically there was not wrestling, there was not fight, there was not even almost contact. Sometimes it is said that Krishna just killed Kamsa by fear. He gave some strong shot of fear. He practically even touched them. He's my uncle, he's my elder, so there's some etiquette to follow even in killing him. So basically that's how Kamsa was killed. And it is described in the Bhagavad that Kamsa obtained mukti, obtained liberation, only by thinking of Krishna every single day. He was absorbing Krishna 24 hours a day, fully Krishna conscious, but not with the proper mode. It was not anukulena, not anukul seva, with a favorable mode. He wanted to kill Krishna in fear. But even though he was absorbing Krishna somehow, so he obtained Brahma Sayuja. To say that as Kalanemi in his previous birth, he was previously killed by Vishnu, that he did not attain liberation. But now he attained it by thinking of Krishna being killed by the Vishnu in Krishna, as my Guru Maharaj spoke yesterday. One thing is Vishnu killing demons, another thing is the Vishnu in Krishna killing demons. That one will afford different types of mukti. So after Kamsa being killed, different brothers of Kamsa appear on the scene trying to kill Krishna. But Balaram dealt with them and killed them all as well. So after all this carnage, I think you say in English, the wives of Kamsa appear, and they got close to the body of their deceased husband, and started to lament, to cry because of his death. So Krishna tried to give relief to them somehow or other, and he started to organize the funerary rites of his uncle. So it is said that Krishna takes the dead body of Kamsa from the hair again all along the main street of Mathura till the river Jamuna, some way to that, for the funerary rites on the shore of the river. Also to show to the whole people of Mathura, Kamsa is dead, because he was kind of a dictator there. So practically anyone was happy with him on one level. So he takes the body there next to the Jamuna. It's typical even nowadays, the body is put in a funerary pyre, it's burned. So after all these ceremonies, it is said that Krishna sat in one place in Mathura called Vishram Ghat. The ghats are these places with steps between the river and land. Vishram means rest. Nowadays, even the Vrindavan Brajamandal Parikram typically begins in that spot, Vishram Ghat in Mathura, for many Gaudiyas. So what does it mean, Vishram Ghat? Vishram means rest. So we think, okay, Krishna sat down to rest for a while, but actually Krishna didn't sit down there for resting, but only for crying. Again, Braj is coming to his mind because he understood, I cannot go back to Braj. In that form in particular that he was outside Braj, he realized they have made me a Kshatriya here after all these events in just 2 days. I promise I will go back after killing Kamsa, but I realized so many things are to be done in this context. So he was absorbed in thinking about the Brajavasis and how the Brajavasis must be crying for me at this present moment. And he started to cry for them in full reciprocation at that present moment, sitting on the ghat to the shores of the Jamuna. And the Jamuna was of course, touching Mathura, but also touching Braj. So it is said that the water in the Jamuna sometimes they say it's black or it's dark because of the tears of the gopis with their mixing with their kajal. The kajal is like the eyeliner that many in Vrindavan use, but in this case also the gopis. So, but they're crying that the profuse tears, torrents of tears in separation from Krishna, along with their kajal that made crying on the shores of the Jamuna, the meeting point with Mathura, if you will. So at that point, Krishna's tears and the gopis' tears fell on the Jamuna and joined in the waters of the Jamuna. So at some level, both of them felt some relief at the distance. Both of them, Krishna and the gopis, crying for the other one in separation, finding some type of relief in this particular point, Vishram Ghat. So we see how over and over again the degree of the love of the Brajavasis will come in the context of Leelas in Mathura and so on. And the last thing that is mentioned, just to finish in this chapter 44, is how Krishna and Balaram, after killing Kamsa, they freed Vasudeva and Devaki, who were in prison, as you may recall. And they revere them, they offer pranam. And Vasudeva and Devaki, remember, they're Krishna's parents, if you will, on one level, or parents of one Krishna, Vasudeva Krishna, as we know. But they remember when Krishna was born, Devaki thinks, from me in Kamsa's prison, he appeared with 4 arms, and we realized he's Bhagavan. So Vasudeva and Devaki started to offer prayers to them. They're telling to Krishna, you are not our son, you are the Supreme Lord, and so on. So some Aishwarya is there. There is some Madhurya, some intimacy, but mixed with Aishwarya. That's the mood of Mathura. Vrindavan is full Madhurya, although there's full Aishwarya, more than any other place, but it's totally buried under layers and layers of intimacy. Mathura, there is a mixture of that. So in this point also, Vasudeva and Devaki were not embracing Krishna and Balaram when they were freed from prison, because they recall he's Bhagavan. So again, with these points, the Bhagavatam is showing us Krishna is here in another place, in another mood. He will like to embrace his parents as he does with Nanda and Jashoda on a daily basis in Braj. But here in Mathura, he finds, oh, my parents are offering pranam and taking some distance where I am, who I am here. So in this way, chapter 44 is finishing. And I will finish also, I will put the discourse to rest here, since we have already spoken for a while. But of course, we may give place for any questions. And something I mentioned also for you to know is that regarding the questions, ideally, those who have Facebook, all of you are invited to share whatever question you have on this talk or any other lecture from this Tattva Vivek series we are doing on a daily basis in a group also called Tattva Vivek that has been established for the discussion of topics of Tattva and Siddhanta. But I know that some of you do not have Facebook, so won't be able to enter into that group. So those of you who do not have Facebook are invited to present whatever questions you may have in connection to today's lecture. And those of you who have Facebook, I invite you to present the question in the Tattva Vivek group. If you are not a member of the Tattva Vivek group, you can ask me later by private message, so you can be a member of it and we can continue our discussion there, also to activate the group and to continue sharing among many others along the week these different topics. But again, that said, if anyone has a question that is not possibly to be presented on Facebook, you can present it now. Okay, it seems everyone has Facebook. I'm seeing who's connected here, and yeah, for work, I can tell most of you have Facebook. Mahara doesn't have Facebook, so if she has questions, you can present it. But also Kanaram took the lead, so let's see.
Maharaj, I don't have Facebook, but it sounds like maybe it'd be worth my time to get the Facebook and be part of an ongoing discussion there.
Yeah, only for that. It's a dangerous thing to be, you know.
Yeah. My question is about something that you said earlier, but not precisely on the topic. I happened to find the verse in I think it's chapter 23 in Sanatana Shiksha in the Chaitanya Charitamrita this morning about this Bhramara Gītā. There are two types of love described there, or the type of love is described like unsteadiness, and then this type of prajalpa talks. Is that right?
Yeah.
And
I think it used the term Udgarna, if I'm not mistaken. Udgarna and Chitra Jalpa. So yes, I was going to speak about that eventually, but yes, those are some of the moments where the Bhramara Gītā is invoked in the context of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, mentioning how, because that section of the Sanatana Shiksha is speaking about, of course, higher peaks of divine love, no? So it's showing symptoms of would you reach such a peak. So of course, in this case, it's speaking about Divya Mad of Śrīmatī Rādhārāṇī. This is mostly an experience that is exclusive to her. It's not something that it's available for every jiva, if you will, because it's something that is more connected to her. And of course, those who are serving her by way of vicarious experience may receive an extension of that experience, mostly the manjaris and so on. So yes, we will speak more in detail when I will be going verse by verse. But in one sense, yeah, one of the symptoms of that Divyan Mad or divine madness, which is a higher development of all these varieties of developed prem, because we have prem and we have the developments of prem, where are sneha, mam, pranay, raga, anurag, bhav, mahabhav. Then we have all the different developments of mahabhav, ruda mahabhav, adiruda mahabhav, mohanaki mahabhav, madanaki mahabhav. And all this reaches its point. It's seen it in this Bhramara Gītā in one form or another. So one of the ways is Chitra Jalpa. This prem will express itself, which means crazy talks. And this Udgarna has to do with unsteadiness and different types of moods, as we will see in the very context of the crazy talks of Sri Radha, where at one point she's criticizing Krishna and criticizing different avatars from Krishna, showing Aishwarya, showing that she knows how Krishna has different avatars, but all that increases her madhurya. It's not that she will think, oh, Krishna is God with so many avatars. She starts to criticize all the different avatars of Krishna. But after some few verses, she starts to glorify Krishna because she feels the bumblebee, oh, she was hearing me and now he left and is giving my message to Krishna. He will be upset with me. But after that, the bumblebee came back, or you are submerged. So all these different, like, how to say, roller coaster of emotions will be there present. So yeah, in that section of Chaitanya Charitamrita, there is some brief indication of how it will be expressing itself more specifically in these 10 verses. So more detail, I think we will be seeing when going on each one of the verses, and we will be explaining which type of emotion is taking place at that particular verse, and that particular verse, which type of Chitra Jalpa is taking place, and so on. Our acharyas have described that very nicely. So thank you for your question, Kṛṣṇa.
Thank you. I have one more that's even less related, about something you said.
Let's see.
Okay, so you were talking about the benedictions that Lord Chaitanya gave to the 6 Goswamis. Will you review those again briefly, please?
Of course, I mentioned some of them. Of course, he gave so many benedictions in so many forms. But what I mentioned in the context I was speaking was that in the same way that Mahaprabhu gave to Gopal Bhatta Goswami his asana, his Mahaprabhu's own asana, like pointing him as a Diksha Guru of the Gaudiya Sampradaya, the same way that he gave his to Raghunath Das Goswami, Gunjamala and Giriraj Govardhan Srila for worship. In the same way, he gave to Raghunath Bhatta Goswami the Bhagavatam. He made him like specifically empowered in that connection. As we see, Rupa Goswami is the Avideya Acharya or Rasa Acharya, Sanatan Goswami is the Sambandha Tattva Acharya, Raghunath Goswami is the Prayojan Tattva Acharya, Jiva Goswami is the Tattva Acharya in itself, the theologian. Gopal Bhatta Goswami is the Diksha Guru. So each Goswami was receiving a particular type of function and empowerment by Mahaprabhu to engage in those functions. And Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, again, he may be the less known one, and we may say which was his function. And his main function was, or service, if you will, or empowerment that Mahaprabhu gave to him was Bhagavat. to recite the Bhagavad in different tunes with a particular feeling. Also cooking, he was very much empowered for that. So these are two very important aspects of our daily devotional experience. Cooking, prasad, and Bhagavad. And so Raghunath Das Goswami was the one in that connection. So that's what I mentioned in the beginning. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So any other questions?
Let's see. I don't really have a question, I guess, just because I just remembered that you said that, but I guess it's kind of a question. I remember you said that when Krishna came into Mathura, he couldn't find the gopis anywhere, so he became more sad. But I know Guru Maharaj says, he kind of mentions how they remind him of, the queens remind him of the gopis. So in that sense, I guess.
Yeah, of course, that's mentioned by Jiva Goswami, that he finds some type of resemblance in Mathura or even in Dwarka. It's mainly mentioned in connection to the queens in Dwarka. I think that's mentioned also by, if I'm not mistaken, by Rupa Goswami, his Lalita Madhava, when at one point Satyabhama shows her angry side, if you will, her Bhamya Bhav, and becomes angry with Krishna because he shows some degree of love for the Brajavasis, and she becomes like jealous or whatever and disappears from the scene, and Krishna speaks strongly to her and I say, the only reason I'm here and I remain here on some level is because I'm somehow or other, when you are giving me your bag, somehow or other that resembles of my beloved Braja Gopikas, and that kind of takes me in that direction, and I appreciate that from you, something like this. No, so that's more connected to the queens and Dwarka. But of course, we can extend the same idea in Mathura, saying that yes, he finds some relief, but I mean, which type of relief is that one at the same time? No? It's a way of saying, but at the same time, you could speak that it's not full relief because one cannot replace the other. I mean, you cannot replace the gopis with the queens of Dwarka or whatever. That's the whole main point of the Bhagavad. It's not that you can replace Vrindavan with Mathura, with Dwarka. Each of them have their own glories in their respective situation, but the love of Braj is the topmost. So whatever Krishna finds outside of Braj kind of resembles that to him. Mainly the point is because he's absorbed in Braj, mostly, principally. On the foremost level, he's absorbing Braj. So if you are absorbing someone, whatever you see reminds you of that thing, but it doesn't mean that those things are exactly the same. You may feel even that because of your absorption, like Mahaprabhu being seeing the ocean and feeling this is Jamuna. Strictly speaking, that's not Jamuna. Seeing Chatak Parva, seeing Govardhan, he's projecting his bhav. So we could say, yeah, Krishna is in Mathura and Dwarka in that particular form, expanded form, and in that form even, yeah, everything comes somehow or other, he connects with Braj, but at the same time, it's not Braj. It's not the same. I mean, that's the point. So when wanting to emphasize how Dwarka and Mathura is not the same, some acharyas will say Krishna was trying to find Vrindavan, but was sad because he was not able to find it. And when trying to emphasize how Krishna was absorbing Vrindavan everywhere and everything resembled that to him, they may say he found some relief in that. But the point is the same. No? They are trying to make the same point from different directions, establishing the topmost position of Brajabhav. So thank you for the question, the comment.
Yeah, those were good points. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so anything else? Okay, so I think we can finish here. And of course, if you have some further questions, those who have Facebook, hopefully you can connect to the Tattva Vivek group. I think the video of the lecture will be shared there. So in the thread, in the chat section of that video, you can share any question and we will be available to continue exchanging Harikatha along the week till we may find each other, meet each other again next Monday. So thank you so much to all of you. Srila Gurudev ki jai, Sriman Mahaprabhu ki jai, Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai, Grantara Srimad-Bhagavatam ki jai, Shri Bhramara-gita ki jai, Gaur Bhaktavrinda ki jai, Gaur Premanand. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyaiva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.